Why is that old parasite here? We have no room for you. Megan's screams echoed through my beach house like a slap to the soul. There I was, standing at the entrance of my own home, keys trembling in my hand, watching as my daughter-in-law glared at me with absolute contempt from my terrace. I had arrived early that Friday morning, hoping to find my sanctuary empty and silent as usual. Instead, I was met with a scene I would never forget. My house had been completely taken over by Megan's family. There were at least 3 unfamiliar cars in my driveway, loud music blaring from my living room, and the smell of burnt food filling the air. Children were running around my deck, screaming and playing soccer against the red geranium pots I had cared for over years. The lawn I mowed myself every weekend was trampled and littered with empty beer cans. The wicker chairs I'd bought with so much love the year before were covered in wet towels and dirty clothes. My beautiful garden looked like a battlefield after an out-of-control party. When Megan saw me, she didn't show a hint of shame. On the contrary, she stood planted in the main doorway as if she owned the place. She was wearing one of my favorite aprons, the one I'd embroidered with my own hands 10 years ago. Her eyes had that cold look I knew so well, the one she always gave me at family dinners when she thought no one was watching. "Megan, I didn't know you were here," I said, trying to find the calmest voice possible within my constricted chest. "This is my house. I've been coming here every holiday weekend for 20 years. She laughed. It was a laugh so cruel it made me feel small and insignificant. "Oh please," she scoffed. "Robert told me we could use the house as long as we wanted. Besides, we're actually doing something productive here. You just come to complain and interrupt our family plans." More people appeared behind her. Her sister Veronica with her 2 teenagers, her gay-haired mother, who looked at me as if I were an intruder, and 3 other people I didn't even know. There was an older man in a Hawaiian shirt who seemed to be her uncle, a young woman with a baby in her arms, and another man who was smoking calmly on my balcony as if it were nothing. They all stared at me with a mix of annoyance and surprise, as if my presence in my own home was a terrible inconvenience. Megan's mother approached and looked me up and down with disdain. "Is this the famous mother-in-law you always talk about?" she asked her daughter in a mocking tone. "I thought she'd be more imposing. She looks pretty ordinary." The malicious snickers of the others pierced me like needles. There I was at 70 years old in my simple travel clothes, being judged by complete strangers on my own property. "Where's Robert?" I asked, feeling my heart start to beat faster. My son had to be here. He would explain everything. Was there a misunderstanding? "Robert is working as always," Megan replied, crossing her arms. "Unlike you, he has real responsibilities. Look, Eleanor, there's no room for you here. The rooms are all taken. The kitchen is being used to prepare food for the whole family, and frankly, your presence will only create unnecessary tension." I was frozen. In that moment, it felt as if the world had stopped. She was actually kicking me out of my own house. The house I built brick by brick after I was widowed, the house I worked day and night for years as a seamstress to pay for. Besides, Megan continued with a poisonous smile, "I already spoke with Robert and we agreed that this house needs to be used more. It makes no sense for it to be empty most of the time while you live comfortably in the city. We have kids who need space to grow." The words hit me like stones. 20 years of building this house after my husband died. 20 years of paying every penny of the mortgage with money earned from cutting and sewing clothes for other people's families. 20 years of caring for every detail, every plant, every corner of this place that had become my personal sanctuary, my only refuge from the world. "This house is mine, Megan," I managed to say, though my voice sounded weaker than I would have liked. "I have the documents. I pay all the bills." "Oh, that's enough," she interrupted, raising her voice even more. "Always the same thing. How it's yours, how you pay. Robert is your son, isn't he? What's yours is also his, and what's his is also mine. That's how normal families work." The kids had stopped playing and everyone was watching me in silence. I could feel their eyes on me, judging me, waiting for my reaction. The humiliation burned my cheeks like fire, But something inside me refused to break. It refused to give them the show they were waiting for. One of the teenagers, who seemed to be Megan's niece, came closer and looked at me with insolence. "Why don't you just go to a hotel? My aunt is right. There's no room for anyone else here." "It's fine, dear," I finally said with a smile that came from my soul, but I knew didn't reach my eyes. "I understand the situation perfectly." Megan smiled in victory, believing she had won. The others seemed satisfied, as if they had witnessed a just victory. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. As I walked away from my own house with slow, dignified steps, my mind traveled 20 years back to when this property was nothing more than a vacant lot full of weeds and dreams. I was 50 years old then. I had just become a widow and Robert was barely 25. It was just the two of us against the world. And I had made the most important decision of my life to build a refuge for our family. I remembered that August morning when I arrived at the lot with my work shoes and my savings book. I had saved every single dollar by working as a seamstress, taking orders from 4 o'clock in the morning until 11 at night. Wedding dresses, school uniforms, clothing alterations, curtains for other people's homes. My fingers bled 1,000 times on that sewing machine I still own. But every stitch was one brick closer to my dream. The architect looked at me with distrust when I told him I wanted to build a beach house as a widowed seamstress. "Mrs. Crawford, this is going to cost at least $45,000, he told me while looking through his papers. "Are you sure you can handle this expense?" I took out my bank book and placed it in front of him. I had exactly $45,000 saved, penny by penny. Robert accompanied me the first day the workers arrived. His eyes were shining with excitement, seeing his mother turn poverty into hope. "Mom, are we really going to have a beach house?" he asked me as I marked where the foundations would go. "We're not just going to have it, son," I said. "We're going to build it with our own hands." And so we did. For 2 years, every weekend, I drove out here to supervise the construction. I carried sand, painted walls, and planted every tree in the garden. Robert came with me when he didn't have college classes. Together, we chose the kitchen tiles, the creamy color of the walls, and the exact position of each window to let in the sea breeze. When we finally finished the house, Robert hugged me on the deck and said, "Mom, you're the strongest woman I know. Someday when I have a family, I'll tell them how my mother built this paradise with pure love and hard work." How had that same boy come to allow his wife to humiliate me in the place I built with so much sacrifice? The house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was the symbol of my independence after becoming a widow. It was proof that a woman on her own could make it without depending on anyone. It was my refuge when the world became too heavy. My place to remember who Eleanor Crawford was before I became just Robert's mom. Every object in that house had a story. I bought the dining table with the extra money I earned making quinceañera dresses for 3 months straight. I sewed the living room curtains myself with fabric I got on sale. The set of kitchen pots cost me $200 that I saved by not buying new clothes for a whole year. But what hurt the most was remembering all the times Megan had come here as a guest. The first years of her marriage to Robert, she behaved like a grateful daughter-in-law. "Oh, Mother Crawford, what a beautiful house you have. You must be so proud of everything you've accomplished." She helped me cook, played with the kids on the beach, and even brought me flowers from the market when they came to visit. When had everything changed? When had she started looking at me as if I were a burden instead of the woman who had given her a husband? Maybe it was when Robert got that better-paying job and she stopped working. Or maybe it was when they bought their own house in the city, and she started feeling superior to the widowed seamstress who lived in a small apartment. The signs had been there for years, but I had ignored them. Her comments about my age. "Mother Crawford, you should rest more. It's not good for you to work so hard at your age." Her suggestions about my clothes. "Why don't you buy something more modern? Robert makes good money now. He can help you." Her hints about the house. What a waste for this house to be empty most of the time. Now I understood that she had been planning this for a long time. The invasion of my house hadn't been spontaneous. It had been calculated, thought out, designed to humiliate me and take possession of what I had built with so much effort. As I walked toward my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. A pure cold rage rising from my stomach to my throat. It wasn't the blind rage that makes you scream and lose control. It was something much more dangerous. It was the intelligent rage of a woman who had survived poverty, widowhood, and decades of hard work. Megan had made a fatal mistake. She had underestimated Eleanor Crawford. She thought I was a harmless old lady who would stay silent in the face of humiliation. She didn't know she was dealing with a woman who had built an empire from $1 at a time, who had raised a son by herself, who had faced the world with empty hands and won. But what hurt me the most wasn't Megan's betrayal. It was Robert's silent betrayal. My son, the boy I had cared for when he had a fever, the young man I had supported through college, the man who had promised he would always protect me, had allowed his wife to treat me like trash in my own house. I got in my car and started the engine. I had to find a hotel for the night, but it would only be temporary, very temporary, because Megan Dyson had just declared a war she had no idea how to fight, and I was a veteran. The Golden Sands Hotel cost me $85 a night. Money I hadn't planned on spending because I was supposed to be sleeping in my own bed, in my own house. But there I was, checking in like any other tourist while my home was occupied by invaders who felt entitled to my property. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Megan's arrogant smile. I heard her poisonous words. I felt the humiliation that was burning inside me. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I was already awake, drinking coffee and planning my next move. I decided to go back to the house to try to talk calmly. Maybe it had been a misunderstanding. Maybe Megan had reacted badly because of the stress of having so much family together. Maybe Robert would show up and put an end to the situation. After all, he was my son. He knew better than anyone everything I had sacrificed for that house. When I arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning, I found the front door locked, my own door. I had to ring the doorbell of my own house, as if I were a visitor. Veronica, Megan's sister, answered, still in her pajamas and looking annoyed. "What do you want now?" she asked, not even greeting me. "Good morning," I replied with as much dignity as possible. "I've come to get some of my personal things, and I need to talk to Megan about this situation. Megan is sleeping, and your things aren't here anymore. We put them in bags in the garage so they wouldn't get in the way." My things in bags in the garage. It felt like I'd been stabbed in the chest. "What do you mean my things are in bags? This is my house, Veronica. All the things in here are mine." "Look, lady, I don't want any trouble," but Megan explained the whole situation to me. Robert gave her permission to use the house. And you guys already worked everything out. I don't know why you're here to make drama now. She let me in, but I felt like an intruder in my own home. The smell was different. It smelled of strange food, cigarettes, and cheap perfume. My living room was full of inflatable mattresses and clothes thrown everywhere. The furniture I had chosen with so much love was stained and in disarray. When I walked into the kitchen, my heart nearly stopped. My beautiful kitchen, the one I had designed thinking of all the family meals I would prepare there, was completely wrecked. The stove had burnt grease on it. The sink was full of dirty dishes that already smelled bad. And they had used my best pots to cook something that had left permanent stains on the bottom. "Where are my china plates?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Oh, some of those broke. The kids were playing, and you know how they are. Megan says they were very old." Anyway, my china plates, the ones I had bought one by one for years, saving to complete the set, the ones I had only used on special occasions because I cared for them like treasures, were broken, discarded, as if they were worthless. I went up the stairs to my master bedroom, the sanctuary where I had planned to rest these days. The door was open, and inside was Megan's mother, already dressed, organizing clothes in my closet as if it were her own. "Excuse me," I said, trying to maintain my composure. "This is my room." "Oh, my daughter Megan explained everything to me. Don't you worry. I'll take very good care of things. Look, I even organized your clothes in these bags so they don't get wrinkled. My dresses, my blouses, my shoes, all my personal clothes were shoved into plastic bags as if they were trash for donation. 2 kids I didn't know were sleeping in my bed, and my favorite pillows were on the floor covered in stains. Ma'am, I need you to get these kids off my bed, I said firmly. Your bed, she scoffed. Oh, please. Megan told me you weren't going to use this room anymore. The kids need to sleep comfortably, not on the floor. It was like living a nightmare. In my own house, they were treating me as if I were the intruder, as if my 30 years of work and sacrifice meant nothing, as if my rights to my property were just an old lady's whims. I went down the stairs, trembling with indignation, and looked for Megan. I found her on the terrace, drinking coffee from one of my favorite mugs, wearing my house coat, talking on the phone as if she were the lady of the house. Yes, Mom. The house is beautiful. Don't worry, I've already handled everything. The mother-in-law understood how things are now. She was laughing as she spoke as if my humiliation were a funny joke. When she saw me, she hung up and looked at me with annoyance. What are you doing here so early? I thought it was clear that there was no room for you. Megan, we need to talk. This house is legally mine. I pay the taxes. I pay for the maintenance. I have all the documents. Robert has no right to give you permission for my property without consulting me. Oh, please don't start with your legal drama. Robert is your son, right? Children inherit from their parents. It's normal. Besides, we're taking better care of the house than you are. Look how full of family it is. How happy it looks. Happy? You've destroyed my kitchen. You broke my plates and put my clothes in bags like they were trash. Well, you have a lot of old things that are no longer useful. We took the opportunity to do a general cleanup. We did you a favor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman had invaded my house, destroyed my belongings, humiliated my memory and my memories, and then had the audacity to tell me she had done me a favor. Where is Robert? I asked one last time. I already told you he's working. But don't worry, he's completely on board with all of this. In fact, it was his idea. He said, "It's time for this house to be used for something productive instead of sitting empty, waiting for your occasional visits." That lie broke my heart. I knew my son better than anyone. Robert would never have planned something like this behind my back. But then, why wasn't he here defending me? Why was he allowing his wife to treat me this way? Megan, I'm going to be very clear with you. You have until tomorrow to get your entire family out of my house. This situation is going to end now. She laughed that cruel laugh I already knew too well. What? Are you going to call the police? Are you going to sue your own son? Don't be ridiculous, Eleanor. You know you can't do anything against us. We're family. In that moment, I knew she was right about one thing. We were family. But she had forgotten a fundamental rule of true families. Wolves don't attack the pack. And she had just attacked the oldest and wisest wolf of all. I smiled and turned to leave. You're right, Megan. We are family, and you'll soon see what that really means. That afternoon, I returned to the house with an excuse. I had forgotten to get some important medication from my bathroom cabinet. Megan let me in reluctantly, but didn't accompany me. She was too busy organizing a barbecue on my deck with her entire extended family. As I went up the stairs to my bathroom, I took the opportunity to really inspect the damage they had done to my home. What I found was even worse than I had imagined. My master bedroom was not only occupied by Megan's mother and the unknown kids, they had moved my vanity, scratched the mirror with something sharp, and used my drawers to store their dirty underwear. The bathroom was a nightmare. My white porcelain bathtub, which I had had specially installed because I dreamed of taking relaxing baths after long days of work, was stained with black hair dye. The towels I had embroidered by hand were thrown on the floor, dirty and smelly. My personal care products had disappeared, likely used by all the women in Megan's family. But what truly made me tremble with rage was what I found in my secret closet. Behind the main closet, I had a small space where I kept my most important documents and some sentimental valuables. It was my ultra-private place where no one else knew it existed. The space had been discovered and violated. My documents were scrambled, some on the floor. The jewelry I had inherited from my mother was gone. The property titles to the house were wrinkled, as if someone had been carelessly reviewing and handling them. But the most alarming thing was finding papers that weren't mine. Legal documents with Robert's and Megan's names on them. I took them with trembling hands and read them quickly. It was a request to change the ownership of the property. They wanted to transfer the house into Robert's name, claiming that I, due to my advanced age and deteriorated mental condition, was no longer capable of managing valuable properties. Deteriorated mental condition. Me, the woman who had managed her finances perfectly for 70 years, who had built a fortune from scratch, who was still working and maintaining her financial independence. They wanted to declare me mentally incompetent to steal my house. The paper was dated last week. This confirmed that the invasion of my house hadn't been spontaneous. It had been part of an elaborate plan to take possession of my property, using the law to their advantage. At the bottom of the papers, I found something that chilled me to the bone: a real estate appraisal. They had appraised my beach house at $300,000. $300,000. And there was a handwritten note in Megan's handwriting. With this money, we can buy a bigger apartment and send the kids to private school. We just need her to sign the papers. And for the old lady not to cause any trouble. The old lady. That's what they called me. The old lady who wasn't supposed to cause trouble while they stripped me of everything I had built in my life. I put all the documents in my bag. It was the evidence I needed to fully understand the situation. This wasn't just a family invasion. It was a planned robbery, an elaborate fraud to strip me of my life's work with my own blood as an accomplice. I left the closet and went to my bedroom window. From there, I could see the terrace where Megan's entire family was celebrating. They had loud music on, were grilling meat on my new barbecue, and using my outdoor plate set. The children were running around my garden, screaming and playing without supervision, trampling the flowers I had planted with so much love. But what hurt me the most was seeing Veronica, Megan's sister, taking selfies in different corners of my house, posing as if it were her new property. In one photo, she was sitting in my favorite hammock. In another, she was in the kitchen serving drinks as if she were the hostess. She was uploading them to her social media with comments like, "Family vacation at our new beach house and blessed with this paradise." Our new house. It wasn't even the family's house anymore. It was her new house. I took photos of everything with my phone. The mess, the damage, the stains, the scattered clothes. If this was going to turn into a legal battle, I needed evidence of how they had treated my property. When I went down the stairs, I heard Megan on the phone again. This time, she didn't bother to lower her voice when she saw me. "No, Mom, don't worry. The lawyer says it's very easy. Since Robert is an only child, he can claim the inheritance early due to his mother's incapacity. And once the house is in his name, we can do whatever we want with it." Early inheritance due to incapacity. They wanted to declare me mentally incompetent to steal my inheritance while I was still alive. Yeah, we already sent the fake medical papers. We paid that doctor from the cheap clinic $50 to sign a report saying she has senile dementia. Robert didn't want to at first, but I explained to him that it's for the good of the kids. Fake medical papers, a corrupt doctor, an invented senile dementia report. My own son convinced that stripping me of my property was for the good of the kids. The conversation continued, but I couldn't listen anymore. My world was falling apart, not just because of the betrayal, but because of the sophistication of the deception. They had planned every detail, every lie, every fake document necessary to legally rob me. I left the house without saying goodbye. There was nothing left to talk about with that woman. Words had lost all meaning. This was no longer a family dispute that could be resolved with conversations and good feelings. It was a war, and they had fired the first shot using the dirtiest weapons possible. Lies, fake documents, medical corruption, and the manipulation of my own son. But they had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated their enemy. They thought Eleanor Crawford was a defenseless old lady who would surrender at the first legal threat. They didn't know they were fighting a woman who had built everything they had from nothing. A woman who knew the real value of money, of honest work, and of true justice. Now it was my turn to plan. Underscore 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 underscore. Monday morning, Robert finally showed up. He arrived at the house in his new car, that Toyota he had bought with the money from the promotion he got last year. I saw him park in my driveway as if nothing had happened, as if his family hadn't invaded my home and destroyed my life over a weekend. I was waiting for him on the hotel terrace, watching my house with binoculars I had bought at a sporting goods store. I had spent the night awake, organizing all the documents I had found, taking notes and preparing for this moment. I knew Robert would come eventually. He had to come. Their plan couldn't be executed without his personal signature. I saw him greet Megan with a kiss on the cheek, hug some of the children running in the garden, and act as if this were completely normal, as if his mother hadn't been humiliated and thrown out of her own house, as if he weren't an accomplice in an elaborate fraud to steal my property. I waited 20 minutes before walking toward the house. I needed him to feel comfortable, to believe he was in control of the situation. When I rang the doorbell, he was the one who opened the door. "Mom," he said with that forced smile he used when he knew he had done something wrong. The same smile he used when he was a kid and I caught him lying about his grades. "How are you? Megan told me you came over the weekend." "Megan told you?" I repeated slowly, measuring each word. "Is that all she told you, Robert?" "Oui. She said there was a small misunderstanding, but that everything is already settled." "I thought we had talked about this before." "Talked about what exactly?" Robert became nervous. He started to play with his car keys as he always did when he was lying. "About using the house. You know, you come here so little, Mom. And Megan's family needs a place to get together for vacations." "Oh, I see. And did we also talk about declaring me mentally incompetent?" His face went as white as a sheet. "What? What are you talking about?" I took the documents from my bag and put them in front of him. "I'm talking about this, Robert. Request for property transfer due to owner's mental incapacity. Does that sound familiar?" His hands trembled as he took the papers. For a moment, I saw my real son, the scared boy I had raised by myself for so many years. But that moment lasted only a few seconds before Megan appeared behind him. "What's going on here?" she asked with that controlling voice she always used. "Robert, I thought we agreed there was nothing to talk about." "Megan, she found the papers." "What papers?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Robert, your mom is confused again. You know how she gets when she's stressed." "I'm not confused, Megan. And I'm not senile either, as the fake medical report you paid $50 for says." The mask fell completely. Her eyes filled with pure hatred. "You were spying on our private conversations." "I was defending my house from invaders and thieves." "Thieves?" she yelled. "We are not thieves. Robert is your son. He has a right to this property. Robert has a right to inherit when I die, not to steal from me while I'm alive." "Oh, please. You're already old, Eleanor. How many more years are you going to live? Why don't you just let us do something productive with this house instead of it sitting empty, waiting for your occasional visits?" The silence that followed was deafening. Robert had his head down like a punished child. Megan's mother and Veronica had come out of the house and were listening from the terrace. The kids had stopped playing and were watching us curiously. "Did you just really suggest that my mother hurry up and die so you can have her house?" Robert finally raised his voice. "I didn't say that." Megan defended herself. "I just said that she doesn't need so many properties at her age." Who are you to decide what I need or don't need? I asked her directly. Who do you think you are to invade my house, destroy my belongings, steal my jewelry, and plan to strip me of my life's work with fake documents? We didn't steal anything. No? Then where are the pearl earrings my mother left me? Where is my late husband's gold watch? Where are the silver coins I had stored in my secret closet? Robert looked at me in surprise. What silver coins? The ones your wife knows about, because she went through all my private documents looking for ways to steal from me. That's a lie, Megan screamed, but her face gave her away. Robert, I said to my son with the calmest voice I could find, I need you to tell me the truth right now. Did you know about the property transfer papers? I tell her, Megan yelled at him. Tell her you knew. Tell her you agreed. Tell her it's time for you to think about your real family instead of pleasing your mom your whole life. Shut up, Megan. Robert finally exploded. Just shut up. We all fell silent. Robert never yelled at his wife. He was a quiet man. He avoided conflict. He always sought family peace. Seeing him lose control like that was shocking for everyone. Mom, he said with tears in his eyes, I never wanted things to get to this. But you knew about the papers, didn't you? Yes or no? Yes, he whispered. I did. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. It was one thing to suspect my son's betrayal, but it was another thing entirely to hear him confirm it with his own voice. And the fake medical report, too. Megan said it was just a formality that all kids have to do that when their parents reach a certain age. That it was normal. That it was to protect you. Protect me from what, Robert? From making bad decisions with your money. What bad decisions? Spending my money on my house for my vacations. No, Mom, but Megan is right that the house is empty most of the time and we have expenses. We have kids who need. And that's why you decided to rob me instead of asking me for help. We're not robbing you, Megan interrupted again. We're helping you be more practical with your money. Helping me be practical by faking medical reports, inventing that I have dementia, and invading my house like thieves? That's enough. Megan screamed. Robert, tell her the truth once and for all. Tell her you already spoke with the lawyer that the papers are ready, that all that's missing is your signature to transfer the property. Tell her it's time for you to act like a man instead of an obedient child. Robert looked at me with eyes full of shame and pain. Mom, I'm so sorry. You're asking for forgiveness, and at the same time, you're going to rob me of my house. It's not robbing. It's securing the future of my kids by destroying the present of your mother. He didn't answer. He just stood there caught between his wife who was pressuring him to sign my financial death sentence, and his mother who was looking at him with a broken heart. It's okay, Robert, I finally said. I understand. I know where your loyalties lie. I turned to walk back to my car, but stopped and turned to look at all of them. Just one more thing. You thought Eleanor Crawford was a defenseless old lady who would give up without a fight. You were wrong. I fought poverty and won. I fought widowhood and won. I built this property brick by brick when you weren't even in my life. And now I'm going to fight against you and I'm going to win this too. The triumphant smile disappeared from Megan's face. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. With what lawyer? She asked with a trembling voice. You don't have money for legal battles. I smiled. Who told you I don't have money, dear? I walked out of my house with my dignity intact, but with a broken heart. Robert had made his choice. He had chosen easy money over the woman who had raised, educated, and loved him unconditionally for 45 years. He had chosen his wife's manipulative screams over the silent voice of his own conscience. But if they thought I was going to stay in a corner crying, they were completely wrong. I drove straight to the bank. I needed to check exactly how much money I had available for this war. For the last 20 years, I had continued to save religiously, even after finishing paying for the house. Every month, I put away $300 from my pension and the income from my sewing work. I had learned from a young age that saved money was power. It was security. It was freedom. The bank manager, Alex Peterson, had known me for 15 years. He was a serious, professional man who had always respected my financial discipline. Eleanor, how can I help you today? I need the exact balance of all my accounts, and I need to discuss a delicate legal matter. When he showed me the numbers on the screen, I smiled for the first time in days. I had $87,000 in savings plus $23,000 in certificates of deposit and $12,000 in my checking account. $122,000 in total. Megan had miscalculated. She thought I was a poor old lady who relied solely on a meager pension. She didn't know that Eleanor Crawford had been a hard-working aunt all her life, saving every penny to protect herself from exactly this kind of situation. Mr. Peterson, I need you to freeze any attempts by third parties to access my accounts, and I need an official letter from the bank confirming my mental capacity to manage my finances. Of course, Eleanor. Is there a problem? My family is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent to take my assets. His face became serious. That's very serious. Do you need a recommendation for a specialized lawyer? Yes, please. He gave me the name and phone number of Thomas Gallagher, a lawyer specializing in family law and asset fraud. He's the best in these types of cases. Tell him I sent you. I left the bank with a new energy running through my veins. It wasn't just the peace of mind of knowing I had the financial resources to defend myself. It was the mental clarity of having a concrete plan of action. I called Thomas Gallagher from the bank's parking lot. His secretary gave me an appointment for that same afternoon. The lawyer can see you at 4 o'clock. It's urgent, right? Very urgent. I spent the rest of the morning organizing all the documents I had collected. The fake property transfer papers, photos of the damage to my house, the list of stolen items, and copies of all my legitimate property titles. I also printed screenshots from Veronica's social media where she was showing off her new beach house. At 4 o'clock, I was sitting in Thomas Gallagher's elegant office. He was a man in his mid-60s, gray-haired with intelligent eyes and professional manners that inspired immediate trust. Mrs. Crawford, tell me everything from the beginning. Don't omit a single detail. I narrated the entire story. The invasion of my house, Megan's humiliations, the fraudulent documents, the fake medical report, the stolen jewelry, Robert's betrayal. He took detailed notes, asking precise questions that demonstrated his experience in these types of cases. Do you have the original property documents? Yes, all of them. The house is 100% in my name. I paid for every penny of the construction, and I have all the receipts from the last 20 years. Has the doctor who supposedly signed the dementia report ever examined you? Never in my life have I seen him. I don't even know his name. Excellent. That is a falsification of medical documents. A federal crime. Do you have any documentation for the stolen jewelry? I'm sure I do. Some of it, especially my late husband's watch, is insured for $3,000. Thomas smiled. Mrs. Crawford, your case is solid. Very solid. We have trespassing, robbery, falsification of documents, attempted asset fraud, and possibly medical corruption. Your family stepped in it big time. What can we do? Several things. First, tomorrow we will file an eviction lawsuit for illegal trespassing. Second, we will report the theft of your jewelry to the police. Third, we will report the falsification of medical documents to the medical board and the district attorney's office. And fourth, we will request a restraining order to prevent them from continuing to fraudulently use your name. How long will all that take? The eviction can be immediate if the judge sees clear evidence of trespassing. In cases like this, where the trespassers have no legal right to the property, the law acts quickly. How much will it cost? My fees are $5,000 for the entire process. Can you pay them? I can pay them today if you want. His smile widened. I like to work with clients who take their legal defense seriously. Mrs. Crawford, your family thought you were a defenseless old lady, but they were wrong. You are a prepared woman. I've been preparing to defend myself from the world for 70 years, counselor. I'm not going to stop now. Excellente attitude. One important question. Are you willing to take this all the way? Because when we start this process, your relationship with your son will probably be irreparable. I was silent for a moment, thinking of Robert, of the boy he had been, of the man he could have been, of the coward he had become. Counselor, my son betrayed me for money, declared me mentally incompetent for money, and publicly humiliated me for money. If our relationship can break so easily over money, then it was never a real relationship. And if he tries to regret it and apologize during the process, then he should have thought about it before signing papers to rob me. Apologies after being caught don't count. Thomas nodded with respect. Understood. We will proceed with everything. First thing in the morning, we'll file all the lawsuits. There's one more thing, counselor. I want them to understand that they completely underestimated their opponent. I want them to learn that the consequences of betraying family are real and permanent. What do you have in mind? I want this lawsuit to be public. I want all their friends, neighbors, and acquaintances to know exactly what they did. I want the social cost of their betrayal to be as high as the legal cost that can be arranged. Court records are public, and we can make sure the local media hear about such a scandalous case. I left that office feeling completely different than when I had entered. I was no longer Eleanor Crawford, the betrayed and humiliated mother. Now I was Eleanor Crawford, the woman who was defending herself with all the legal weapons at her disposal. That night, from my hotel room, I called my sister Laura in Texas. I told her the whole story. Eleanor, I can't believe Robert would do that after everything you sacrificed for him. It no longer matters what I sacrificed, Laura. What matters is what I'm going to get back. Do you need me to come help you? No, sister. I have to fight this battle alone. But thank you for offering. I hung up the phone and sat on the bed, looking toward my house. From the hotel window, I could see the lights on, the music still playing, the celebration continuing as if nothing had happened. Tomorrow was going to be a very different day for all of them. I smiled in the darkness. Eleanor Crawford had returned to war. Underscore 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 underscore. On Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, Thomas Gallagher arrived at my house with 3 legal documents, a police officer, and a public notary. I arrived at the exact same time in a taxi, dressed in my best gray suit, and carrying a folder full of evidence. Megan's family was having breakfast on my terrace when they saw the legal caravan park in the driveway. I saw Megan drop her coffee cup when she recognized the official license plates of the police car. Good morning, Thomas said in a professional and strong voice. I am attorney Thomas Gallagher, legal representative for Mrs. Eleanor Crawford, the legitimate owner of this property. We have come to deliver an immediate eviction order for illegal trespassing. Megan ran out of the terrace, a look of panic on her face. What are you talking about? This is my husband's house. We have the right to be here. Ma'am, the police officer replied. Do you have any documents that prove legal rights to this property? My husband is the owner's son. He gave me permission. Where is your husband at this moment? He's at work. Thomas took out the first documents. Here, I have the original deed to the property completely in Mrs. Eleanor Crawford's name. I also have the property tax receipts for the last 5 years, all paid by Mrs. Crawford, and I have this court-ordered immediate eviction for trespassing without the owner's consent. Megan's mother appeared behind her daughter, visibly nervous. What's going on here? What's going on? I said in a calm but firm voice. Is that you invaded my house without my consent, destroyed my property, stole my belongings, and tried to strip me of my life's work using fake documents. Now you are going to face the legal consequences. Veronica came out of the house recording everything on her phone. This is elder abuse. The lady is crazy and is harassing us. Miss, the public notary intervened. Stop recording immediately. This is an official legal proceeding, and you are not authorized to document it. Thomas took out more papers. I also have a formal complaint here for the theft of jewelry and valuables with a detailed list of all the missing items and their estimated values. We didn't steal anything, Megan yelled. Where are the pearl earrings that belonged to Mrs. Crawford's mother? The police officer asked. I don't know what earrings you're talking about. And the gold watch of Mrs. Crawford's late husband insured for $3,000? $3,000. Megan was silent. Her face turned red with shame. Furthermore, Thomas continued, we have evidence of falsifying medical documents to try to declare Mrs. Crawford mentally incompetent. This is a federal crime punishable by prison time. Medical documents? The officer asked. What kind of documents? I showed him the papers I had found. A fake report claiming I have senile dementia signed by a doctor who has never examined me, paid for with $50 to facilitate the theft of my property. The police officer reviewed the documents and frowned. This is very serious, ma'am, he said to Megan. You paid for a fake medical report? I didn't. We just wanted to help her. She's too old to manage so many properties. And that's why you decided to steal her house using fraudulent documents. Just then, Robert arrived, driving at full speed. He got out of the car with a look of total desperation. Surely, someone had told him about the police's arrival. What's going on here? He asked, almost out of breath. Your wife and her family are being legally evicted from your mother's property for illegal trespassing, Thomas explained to him. And you, Mr. Crawford, are being cited as an accomplice in a case of attempted asset fraud. Asset fraud. I showed him the documents. The property transfer papers you were going to sign to steal my house. Robert, the papers your wife had hidden in my secret closet. Robert turned pale. Mom, I can explain. There's nothing left to explain. You already made your decision. But I didn't want it to get to this. Didn't want it to get to what? To me defending myself. You hoped I would stay quiet while they stole my life's work. Megan approached Robert and whispered something in his ear. He shook his head. What is your wife telling you, Robert? I asked. She wants me to tell the police that you have mental problems, that you invent things. What? And what are you going to say? Robert looked me in the eyes for the first time in days. I saw the scared boy he had been, but I also saw the cowardly man he had become. I don't know what to say, Mom. Then don't say anything. Thomas took out the last documents. Mr. Robert Crawford, here is your official citation. You have 3 days to appear in family court to answer for the charges of complicity in attempted asset fraud against a senior citizen. Complicity. Your signature is on the property transfer request documents. Your name is on the request for your mother's mental incapacity. You authorized the fraudulent use of this property. You are legally responsible for all the damages. But I'm her son. She can't sue her own son. Mr. Crawford, the police officer said, the law makes no exceptions for kinship when it comes to fraud and theft. A crime is a crime, no matter who commits it. Megan's mother started to cry. This is unfair. We're family. Families don't sue each other. Families also don't steal from each other, I replied. But you decided to break that rule first. Thomas checked his watch. You have exactly 2 hours to collect your personal belongings and leave the property. Any item that belongs to Mrs. Crawford must stay here. The officer will supervise the process to ensure you don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. 2 hours. Veronica yelled. That's impossible. We have kids. We have luggage. You should have thought about that before invading someone else's property, the notary replied. Megan approached me with tears in her eyes. But they were no longer tears of sadness. They were tears of pure rage. You're going to pay for this, she screamed at me. You're going to pay dearly for humiliating us this way. Robert, say something. Defend your family. Robert looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. It wasn't love. It wasn't respect. It wasn't regret. It was resentment. Pure resentment. Mom, are you really going to go through with this? Robert, I've already gone through with it. You brought me here. But we're family. Family. I repeated the word slowly. Family invades houses. Family steals jewelry. Family fakes medical documents. Family humiliates its seniors in public. We just wanted. You wanted to rob me, and I want justice. Thomas closed his folder. Ladies and gentlemen, you have 2 hours. The clock has already started. I watched as Megan's entire family ran toward the house like desperate ants, grabbing their things, yelling at each other, and blaming one another for the disaster. But I stayed standing in my garden, watching the plan they had created to destroy me fall apart. Eleanor Crawford had counterattacked and won the first round. The 2 longest hours of my life passed like a family drama movie in fast motion. From the deck of my recovered house, I watched the invasion they had so carefully planned completely fall apart. Megan's mother was the first to break. After half an hour of crying and yelling, she sat on the stairs and refused to help with the packing. "This is your fault, Megan," she yelled at her daughter. "You told me everything was settled. You told me the old lady had accepted everything." "Mom, shut up and help me pack," Megan replied, desperately shoving clothes into plastic bags. "The old lady set a trap for us. She acted like a defenseless old lady, and it turns out she had lawyers and money saved up." Veronica recorded the whole process on her phone. But now, it wasn't videos celebrating her new beach house. They were videos of the public humiliation of a family being legally evicted as trespassers. "This is going to go viral," she yelled as she filmed her sister packing. "Everyone is going to know how they treated us. They're going to see what kind of person this lady is." The police officer took her phone away. "Miss, we already warned you about recording without authorization during a legal proceeding. If you continue, you will be arrested for obstruction of justice." The children ran around the house crying and screaming, not understanding why they had to leave the paradise where they had been playing. One of them, a boy about 8 years old, came up to me. "Ma'am, why are you kicking us out? We didn't do anything wrong." My heart broke a little. The children were innocent in all of this. They had been used as pawns in their parents' plan. "I'm not kicking you out because you did something wrong," I explained in a soft voice. "I'm asking you to leave because this is my house and your family came here without asking for my permission." "But my mom said it was our house now." "Your mom was wrong." Megan overheard the conversation and approached furiously. "Don't talk to my kids. You have no right to confuse them even more." "I'm not confusing them. You confused them by bringing them to a house that wasn't yours. This house is ours. Robert is her son. Children inherit from their parents. Children inherit when their parents die, not when their parents are still alive and healthy. You're already old. What do you need so much property for at your age?" Thomas intervened. "Ma'am, every comment you make about my client's age is being documented as additional evidence of age discrimination and psychological abuse against a senior citizen." Megan immediately went quiet. Robert had been carrying suitcases to the cars in complete silence, avoiding my gaze. But when there were only 30 minutes left in the deadline, he finally approached me. "Mom, we need to talk." "There's nothing left to talk about, Robert." "Yes, there is. Look, I admit that things got out of control, but we can fix this. We can reach a family agreement without involving lawyers and police." "What kind of agreement?" "You keep the house, of course. We accept that it was a mistake to come without telling you. And in exchange, you drop all the lawsuits and the stolen jewelry. We'll return everything that was taken by mistake." "By mistake?" "Well, you know, in the confusion of moving, some things got mixed up." "Robert, do you really think I'm going to accept that stealing my mother's jewelry was a mistake?" "Mom, it wasn't stealing. It was a misunderstanding. And the fake medical report was also a misunderstanding. He was silent. And the request for property transfer due to mental incapacity was also a misunderstanding. He remained silent. And publicly humiliating me by calling me a parasite was also a misunderstanding. That wasn't me. That was Megan. But you were there. You saw me being humiliated by your wife in my own house. And you didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. You knew exactly what to say, Robert. You knew you had to defend your mother, but you chose to stay silent so you wouldn't contradict your wife. Megan was stressed, Mom. She had her whole family here. The kids were restless, and that gave her the right to insult me on my own property. Robert became desperate. Okay, Megan behaved badly. I admit it. What else do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to admit that you planned to steal my house using fake documents. I want you to admit that you betrayed me for money. I didn't betray you for money. I did it for my family. And what am I, Robert? Am I not your family? Yes, you're my family. But Megan and the kids are my primary responsibility now. So your primary responsibility now is to rob your mother. It wasn't robbing. It was securing the future of my children by destroying the present of the one who gave you life. Robert put his hands on his head in frustration. Mom, you don't understand. We have huge expenses. The kids need private schools, clothes, vacations. Megan's house needs repairs. I work day and night, but the money is never enough. And that's why you decided that I had to pay your bills with my life's work. You live alone in a small apartment. You don't need such a big beach house. It's a waste. There it was. The truth had finally come out. Robert hadn't betrayed me out of love for his family. He had betrayed me because he thought I didn't deserve what I had worked my whole life to get. A waste. I repeated the word slowly. Mom, I didn't mean it in a bad way. Are my 30 years of working day and night a waste? No. But is my discipline of saving every penny to build this house a waste? Mom, please. Is my sacrifice of raising you alone after becoming a widow a waste? That's enough, Robert exploded. It's always the same with you. Always reminding me of everything you sacrificed. Always making me feel guilty for having my own life. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Megan stopped packing to listen. There's the truth, I said with a calm that surprised me. You didn't betray me for money. You betrayed me because my sacrifices for you became a psychological burden you couldn't bear. I didn't say that. You didn't have to say it. You just screamed it. Robert stood there breathing heavily, his face red with shame and rage. Do you know what the saddest thing about all this is, son? I asked him. If you had asked me for help directly, I would have helped you. If you had told me you were having financial problems, we would have found a solution together. But you preferred to conspire behind my back, humiliate me publicly, and try to rob me using the law. Why, Robert? Why did you choose the cruelest path? Because I knew you would say no. How did you know if you never asked me? Because you've always been very attached to your money, very controlling with your life's work. Controlling? Robert, I paid for your college. I bought you your first car. I lent you the down payment for your house. I've helped you financially dozens of times in your adult life, but always with conditions, always reminding me that it was your money, that it was your sacrifice. I finally understood everything. Robert hadn't betrayed me out of greed. He had betrayed me out of pride. His male pride couldn't stand continuing to depend financially on his old mother. You know what, Robert? I finally said, you're right. I should have forced you to be more independent when you were younger. I should have let you solve your own problems instead of always rescuing you. But it's too late to change the past. And now you're going to have the opportunity to be completely independent, because from now on you're going to solve all your financial problems without my help. Thomas checked his watch. Folks, you have 10 minutes left. The final stampede was chaotic. Megan yelling orders, the kids crying, Robert carrying the last suitcases with a look of total defeat. When they were all finally in their cars, Megan rolled down her window and screamed one last threat at me. "This isn't over, you bitter old lady. We're going to appeal. We're going to prove that you're crazy." "Go right ahead," I replied calmly. "My lawyer will be waiting for you." The cars drove away, kicking up dust in my driveway. Robert was the last to leave. He looked at me in the rearview mirror, but I had already turned my back. Thomas approached. "How do you feel, Mrs. Crawford?" "Tired," I answered honestly. "But free. Free from having to pretend that we're a happy family. Free from having to excuse betrayal with maternal love. Free from pretending that this can be fixed with forgiveness and forgetting." The police officer said goodbye. The notary finished his documents. Thomas handed me the keys to my own house. "Mrs. Crawford, your house has been officially recovered." I went up the steps of my terrace and sat in my favorite chair. For the first time in a week, I was alone in my own home, but the final act of this play was still to come. Underscore 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 underscore. 1 week after the eviction, my beach house had regained its original peace. I had hired a professional cleaning service for $700 to erase all traces of the invasion. The strange smells had disappeared, the stains were gone, and my furniture was back in its correct places. But the real justice was just beginning. Thomas called me on Friday with news that made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Mrs. Crawford, I have some important updates. The doctor who signed the fake dementia report has been suspended by the medical board. The investigation revealed that he had signed at least 12 similar reports in exchange for cash, and the legal consequences for Robert and Megan." Oh, that's the best part. The prosecutor decided to proceed with criminal charges for asset fraud and conspiracy. It's no longer just a civil matter. It's a criminal case now. What exactly does that mean? It means they could face jail time if they are found guilty. And it also means that all the legal fees they've had to pay have been enormous. That same afternoon, I received an unexpected call. It was Veronica, Megan's sister, crying on the phone. "Eleanor, please, we need to talk. Megan is desperate. Robert has spent over $15,000 on lawyers, and the legal proceedings aren't even finished yet." "And what does that have to do with me?" We want to apologize. We want to fix things." "Do you want to fix things, or do you need me to drop the lawsuits because you're running out of money?" "Ma'am, please. Megan has kids to support. Robert could lose his job if this goes public at his office. She should have thought about her kids before planning to rob me. And Robert should have thought about his job before faking medical documents." "But you already got your house back. You already won. Why keep punishing us?" "Because getting my house back doesn't erase the humiliation. It doesn't return the stolen jewelry. It doesn't eliminate the psychological damage of being betrayed by my own son. We can give the jewelry back. It's at my mom's house." "The jewelry you took by mistake? The jewelry you accidentally stole during the confusion of moving?" "Ma'am, please. Veronica, tell your sister that if she wants to talk to me, she can come here personally and bring all the stolen jewelry." I hung up the phone, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. The satisfaction came from watching the plan they had designed to destroy me fall apart. The sadness came from knowing that my relationship with Robert was probably over forever. Underscore 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 underscore. 2 days later, Megan appeared at my door. She came alone, without Robert, with a bag in her hand and eyes swollen from crying. "Eleanor, I came to return your things and to apologize. Come in." She sat in my living room like a scolded child, put the bag on the table, and began to take out my jewels one by one. Here are the pearl earrings. Here is the gold watch. Here are the silver coins. And here is the necklace that that we also took by mistake. By mistake. Ma'am, the truth is I took them, but it wasn't to steal them. It was to sell them. We needed the money urgently. We have a lot of debts. Robert lost money in some bad investments last year. We're behind on our mortgage. Our credit cards are maxed out, and the kids need school. And that's why you decided to rob me. It wasn't robbing. It was asking for your help indirectly by invading my house and publicly humiliating me. Megan started to cry. Eleanor, I admit I behaved badly, very badly. But I was desperate when Robert told me you had this beautiful house, and that you almost never used it. I thought, maybe you thought you could take it from me without asking. I never wanted to take it from you. I just wanted to use it while you weren't here. And then when we saw how expensive it was to maintain 2 houses, we thought maybe it would be better for the house to officially be Robert's to avoid legal problems in the future. Legal problems, Megan? You created the legal problems by falsifying medical documents. That was the idea of the cheap lawyer we consulted. He told us it was the fastest way to transfer property between family. A lawyer recommended you commit fraud. He said it wasn't fraud if it was between immediate family. I was silent for a moment, processing the level of ignorance and naivety they had demonstrated. They had ruined their lives financially and legally, because they followed the advice of a fifth-rate corrupt lawyer. Where is Robert? I asked. He didn't want to come. He says you're not his mother anymore. Those words hurt more than I expected, but they also confirmed that I had made the right decision. He says I'm not his mother anymore. Yes. He says a real mother wouldn't sue her own son. That you chose money over family. And what do you think, Megan? I think we started all of this. But I also think you took things too far. We could have resolved everything as a family without lawyers or police. How could we have resolved it as a family if you never told me the truth? If you lied to me, deceived me, and planned to rob me behind my back? But we're family. Families forgive. Families respect each other, Megan. And you disrespected me in every way possible. Megan wiped her eyes and looked at me directly. What do I need to do for you to drop the lawsuits? Do you really want to know? Yes. I want Robert to come here personally and apologize to me. Not to you, not on the phone. I want him to come and look me in the eyes and admit everything he did wrong. He won't come. He's too proud. Too proud to apologize to his mother, but not too proud to try to rob his mother. He feels betrayed by you too, Eleanor. Betrayed for defending myself from his attacks. Betrayed because you chose lawyers over family. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I laughed a bitter laugh that came from my soul. Megan, do you really think I chose lawyers over family? That's not what happened. I chose justice over betrayal. I chose dignity over humiliation. I chose truth over lies. But we were family. Family? Families take care of each other. You tried to destroy me. Megan got up to leave. So there's no way to fix this. The way to fix this was not to do it in the first place. After she left, I sat on my terrace, watching the sunset over the sea. The waves crashed against the shore with their eternal rhythm, indifferent to the human dramas unfolding on land. Underscore 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 underscore. A week later, Thomas called me with the final news. Mrs. Crawford, Robert and Megan accepted a plea deal. They're going to pay a fine of $25,000. They're each going to do 200 hours of community service and will be on probation for 2 years. No jail time. No, but they will have a permanent criminal record. And the fake doctor's report has been officially annulled. Your mental capacity is completely clean legally. And the legal fees? They've spent over $30,000 on defense lawyers. Between the fines and the legal fees, it cost them over $50,000 to try to rob your house. $50,000. $50,000. Almost half the value of my house. They had lost more money trying to rob me than they could have gained if they had succeeded. That night, alone in my recovered home, I took stock of everything that had happened. I had lost my son. That was the most painful truth. Robert had chosen resentment over repentance, pride over forgiveness. But I had gained something more valuable: my dignity, my independence, and the confirmation that Eleanor Crawford was still a strong, intelligent woman capable of defending herself from any threat. My 70 years hadn't turned me into a defenseless old lady. They had turned me into a wise woman with resources, contacts, and the determination to protect what I had built with so much effort. The next month, I decided to do something I had never done: hire a part-time housekeeper to take care of the house when I wasn't there. Not because I couldn't do it myself, but because I wanted to make sure no one could ever invade it again without my knowledge. I also changed all the locks, installed security cameras, and updated my will to leave the house to charities instead of to Robert. If he wanted total financial independence, he was going to have it. 6 months later, I received a letter from Robert. A letter, not a call. He didn't even have the courage to talk to me directly. "Mom, I hope you're doing well. The kids ask about you. Megan and I have learned our lesson. Maybe someday we can be a family again." I didn't answer the letter. True families don't betray each other for money. True families don't humiliate their elders. True families don't plan robberies using fake documents. Robert had decided that money was more important than his mother. I had decided that my dignity was more important than his forgiveness. Each of us lived with the consequences of our decisions. I lived in my beach house, free, independent, and at peace. They lived with debts, a criminal record, and the social shame of having tried to swindle a 70-year-old woman. The silent justice had triumphed, and Eleanor Crawford had proven that underestimating an older woman was the most expensive mistake one could ever make.